Hello and welcome to College Football On Air. I'm your host, Carl Mogline. Finally doing a show after a month off because I had stuff. Alright, this is the College Football On Air. I guess it's our second season now. Coming back, we did the whole season last year and now we're coming back because I decided it was fun. That makes sense. Alrighty, first off, follow me on Twitter. At Carl_PM. That's Carl with a K. Not a C, with a K. You can also find me at In the Crease with Carl Mogline on Facebook or 50 State Sports Update on Facebook. You get the idea. Because I have yet to create a fan page for myself. Feel like that'd be a little weird. Also, National Sports here on Spreaker. You can find us on Facebook, National Sports, and on Twitter at National Sports 1. Not 2, not 3, not just National Sports 0, National Sports 1 for that. So please just, you get the idea. Alright, now we're actually going to talk about college football. I know it's crazy and you guys all expect me just to talk about myself, but it'll be okay. Alright, we're going to start with our Week 1 roundup. We're a new roundup of this week. I'm going to talk about my top 5 teams with my personal favorite football analyst in the world. Jake Liker will be on air. I've been on his shows a couple times. He does Rookies Roundup. I think he's hilarious. And he's a UCLA fan and I'm an Oregon fan. So we'll probably have a Pac-12 debate later. But we may not. Alright, actually, okay. Time to get to the show. Week 1 roundup. There were 8 FCS teams that had upsets. And of course, not all were large upsets, I'm sorry, but I really didn't expect a lot from South Alabama against Southern Utah. They lost 21-22. Or Georgia State against Samford, 21-31 in favor of Samford. Towson beating Connecticut 33-18 is semi-disappointing, and Iowa State losing to Northern Iowa 30-27. Come on, Iowa State. I mean, you're better than that. Iowa State is not that bad. They beat Oklahoma State a couple years ago, but Northern Iowa, they're only known because they had a Fahim Mahumadava, I think his name was somewhere similar to that, when they were an 8th seed and they knocked out a big team, Kansas or Kentucky, or one of the K-States. Probably. Now we move on to some of the more important ones. San Diego State has a good football team, and they lost to Northern Illinois by 21 points. That is even almost as sad as, USF, University of Southern Florida, the sunny place where they lost to McNeese State 53-21. It was probably worse than that. I think McNeese State started putting in their backups by the second half. They were winning by so much. It was ridiculous. But there were 2 upsets that really, really stood out when you look at this game. Honestly, the first one is Kansas State, and I'm just slightly depressed with Kansas State. Kansas State won the Big 12 last year. They did get crushed by Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl, but, that's what happens when you play Oregon. But, really, losing North Dakota State, even though they are the best FCS team, won 2 straight national championships, and a team that could probably beat 40 or 60 of the FBS teams right now, North Dakota State, really? Come on, Kansas State. And you weren't that bad. North Dakota State was a really good team. But 21 points against an FCS defense is just not good enough. But then, the saddest thing in the world, a ranked team lost to an FCS opponent. A good one. Eastern Washington is, made the semifinals last year, won a championship a few years ago. Not a terrible school. They have had wins. They've beaten FBS teams before. It's not huge, but it's a ranked team. It's number 25, and it's Oregon State. Oregon State could not play D. 49 points allowed by an FCS team. That's about, I think 46 points too many on my scale. This is almost as bad as the McNeese State situation. At least Oregon State showed they could put points up. But imagine, say, Washington or Oregon or Arizona or USC or UCLA or Washington State. I'm just saying the entire Pac-12, because imagine what points they can put up on Oregon State. Basically, Oregon State saying, we have 2 quarterbacks, Sean Mannion and Cody Vaz, and we think we can score more than you because somehow 2 quarterbacks helps us. And, well, I plainly disagree and think Oregon State should have won. This is just kind of sad. Come on, Oregon State. You're better than this. Alright, now we're going to look at the ranked losses other than Oregon State and their disappointment. 2 of these were ranked teams playing ranked teams, and I have less disappointed in them. TCU losing to LSU 37-27. Well, I do not mind that much. I mean, TCU is just not an elite team, and LSU really has the chance to be. I think they're underranked this year at 12, and now they're finally getting some respect for being a ranked team. Thank you, because I think LSU is a strong team, and they deserve a little more attention. Then you look at 5 Georgia versus number 8 Clemson. This is a clash of the Titans, 2 teams that could end up meeting again in the postseason, in even a national championship game if both run the table from here on out. These are good teams, and this was a close game, 35-38. Clemson barely pulled it out, so I have no issue with this. Georgia goes down out of the top 10 to like number 11, I believe, and Clemson moves into the top few, but I'm not going to go into rankings now. This isn't a bad loss. Taj Boyd proved a lot, but Aaron Murray wasn't terrible. It was not a bad game for either team. The loss I mind is number 19 Boise State. Lost to unranked Washington 38-6. That's just a little sad for me. 38-6, that means that Boise State, I'm assuming, had 2 field goals. While Washington did a lot better than 2 field goals, and Washington, while it's not a team I hate, I normally like Boise State. And I think I'm going to call this the Boise State effect from now on, because it's basically showing that because a team has been good in the past, they are now good in the present, and I don't think that's true. I think Boise State was overranked at number 19, and I'm happy that Washington is getting some attention, and I think Washington will probably be 3rd in the Pac-12 North. You look at, especially now that they're better than Oregon State, because Oregon State has supremely disappointed me. But Washington I'm happy with. Boise State overranked. Come on, Boise State. But good job for Washington. They absolutely crushed them. And they have a new stadium, so everything good in Seattle. And now we're going to go on to my personal rant number 1, because I decided it's fun enough that I should have 2 rants. Hey, isn't that special? Well, my first rant is about the Heisman Trophy. And now it's week 1. And then it's going to be week 2. And the next 8 weeks, we still really shouldn't care about the Heisman. The Heisman Trophy is decided at the end of the season. And tell me, how many of you out there knew Johnny Manziel week 1? How many of you picked him to be a top 18 vote getter? I know I wasn't one, and I know, well, most people weren't. Johnny Manziel came out of nowhere. Nowhere! He came from Texas A&M, a team that wasn't suspected to do that well. And that's why I think, really, or why are we talking about this? You guys all thought that Landry Jones had a strong chance last year. Come on, Matt Barkley was another top pick. Look what he did. They went 7-6 and lost to Georgia Tech. So, please stop talking about the Heisman when it's week 2, or week 1, or week 3, or week 6. I can take it at week 8. That's my limit. Because, even though I would love to talk about the Heisman and who's going to win it, I have no clue, you have no clue, because it's week 1. People are saying Jadeveon Clowney has lost his Heisman chance after a terrible game at UNC, and I just do not UNC it. I mean, come on, 1 bad game, and he was sick. I don't think that people really can get an idea of a season from 1 game. James Winston's now going to be a Heisman favorite, even though he's played 1 game against Pitt. It's Pitt, for God's sake. Their kicker's named Chris Blewett, and I'm not joking about that. This is not a game they should really be celebrating. I mean, they won. That's great. But Heisman Trophy candidate, I really highly doubt that. It's just too early. You look at Braxton Miller, I think he has a great chance. He's probably my Heisman pick. But why are we picking Heisman Trophy contenders now? Marcus Mariota, he's going to have a great season. But how do we know some sophomore we've never heard of isn't going to do better? Texas Tech had a true freshman starting their game. He threw 5 touchdowns, and I don't remember his name because nobody covered. But maybe by the end of the season I'll know his name a whole lot better if he's standing there on New York holding that trophy, and maybe he can be the second freshman. Maybe the Johnny Manziel effect is catching on just similarly as that sophomore effect did when all those sophomores won back in the earlier 2000s. So just take your time, relax, enjoy the show, and please shut up about the Heisman. Alright, now we are going to call my personal favorite football expert on national sports. It's Jake Laker, and we are going to be on the phone with him for the next, I don't know how long. Alright, now we are calling him, and we're going to talk all sorts of things with him. Personally, top 5 is my favorite thing about this. And it's ringing. And ringing. Jake, you there?
Hey girl, what's up?
Oh, well, you're live on air on college football. On air. So, that's nice.
Yeah, I've been listening.
Oh, that's...
I got a good thought.
Oh, that sounds good. Let's listen to Jake's thoughts, everybody.
What?
Let's listen to your thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts. And I think our viewers obviously want to listen to your thoughts, too.
I like to listen to my thoughts. First of all, as an obligation to the entire region of northern Iowa, who you owe an apology to. The kid's name is Ali Farouk.
See, the thing is, who remember? I'm sorry, but it's a hard name to remember, okay? I'm sorry. I knew I was going to take flack for that one because that was a little bit stupid.
Michael Humanawanui is the fullback for the New England Patriots.
Really?
Really?
Okay, see, that's why. I actually named a real person, at least.
Yeah, at least it was actually a real person.
See, I just want to know how you get a fullback named that. See, he should be a linebacker. He really should be a linebacker. That's a linebacker name.
Well, I mean, he's on the Patriots, considering they don't even use their running backs. They'll never use a fullback, so...
That's true. He's probably just there for the name.
Probably.
Okay, let's actually talk college football now. Because, well, your show's for normal football, and I talk about the minors of football. Because that's what college football is. And that's a different argument. I'm just going to go off, and let's talk about our top 5s. First, I'm just going to go over what the AP and the coaches said, because, well, apparently they're smart. Alabama's number 1 in both polls, but then we get some chaos. Oregon is number 2 in the AP poll, moving past Ohio State, while on the other side, Ohio State's still over Oregon, and Oregon's at 3. Then, Stanford and Clemson are switched. Clemson over Stanford in the AP, and the coaches have Stanford over Clemson on the other side. And Jake, now I would love to hear your personal top 5.
My personal top 5. It's really tough to tell so early on. You've got teams who haven't even played a single game.
Yeah, see, I couldn't agree more with that one. It kind of goes with the Heisman. Why the heck are we trying to pick who's going to win now? We don't know, people!
But that's the fun of it, you see? Like, because, keep in mind, right now, your Vikings have the same record as my Green Bay Packers.
Well, that is true.
You hold on to that for a long, like, you can actually feel like maybe we're as good as them until we play our first game. That's why, because the people who don't have a chance get to feel like they do.
Well, that is very true. Okay, well...
Rankings.
So let's hear your rankings.
Yeah. Alright. Number 1 is Alabama. There's no question about that. I'm not even going to debate that, and I hope you agree, because if you
Oh, no, I do. I actually do disagree on that one. That's fun, but that's later. Let's hear the rest.
Oh, this should be fun. Alright. Number 2, I'm going to give to Oregon because they absolutely demolished... Oh, correct. No, I'm not giving it to Oregon. I'm giving it to Ohio State because Buffalo University is the team that is a little bad the most.
Buffalo sucks! Buffalo's bad for a team in whatever conference they are. I'm pretty sure they're in the Conference USA, but they're really bad there, or MAC. It's one of the two.
Buffalo is a better team than Nicholls State.
Yeah, but they had, see, if Oregon had played Buffalo, what would happen?
Ohio State won that game 42-3. I'll give number 2 to Ohio State.
Okay.
Oh, God. I'm going to have to give number 3, and this is a really tough one for me. I have to give number 3 to Clemson, and here's why.
Jake,
I don't care.
Before you go on, I just need to tell you.
Yeah.
You and me are going to have a fun Oregon debate after this one.
Oh, boy. Look, keep in mind, this early in the season.
Well, they're the only team that's proved anything.
If you want my opinion here, Clemson is Oregon's a better team than Clemson. But the fact of the matter is, Oregon beat Nicholls State, and Clemson beat Georgia. And Taj Boyd is actually, I take that back. Clemson is a better team than Oregon, if you ask me. So I give Clemson number 3, Oregon goes number 4, and then you've got number 5. Stanford should not be in the top 5, just considering that they haven't played a single game yet.
I can accept that
South Carolina
logic.
was sloppy against North Carolina. Texas A&M was sloppy when they didn't have Manziel, and I kind of hate Manziel. And then you've got number 8, Louisville. And Teddy Bridgewater was just dominant out there. So I'm thinking number 5 to Louisville.
See, I can...
Because, again, and it's week 1.
It's week 1. I promise you at least 2 of the teams in both of our top 5s will probably end up disappointing us. Alright, here's my top 5, and we're going to go bottom down because we can, and it's Stanford at 5. And I'm sticking them in because I like the team, but I still have them on upset watch for this week because they're playing San Jose State, a team I really like. But I have Stanford in top 5 because, well, they're a good team. And, well, yeah. So then we go to 4, and I have Ohio State below the collection of the best 3 teams because Ohio State had trouble with Buffalo, who's not very good. And then, let's see, Ohio State isn't really that good. You look at their schedule, it's weak, so they may be undefeated, and they may do well. But if you look at these teams and who I think would beat each other, I think Ohio State would lose to Clemson, Alabama, and Oregon. But let's move on. Then I have Clemson at 3. That win against Georgia was impressive. Absolutely impressive. I mean, Taj Boyd proved he really was clutch in that game, I think. He was absolutely outstanding. And then here's where all the controversy is going to happen. And I'm going to ask you to please keep your comments and questions inside your mouth until the end of the ride because you're going to have a lot. I have Alabama at 2, and I have Oregon at 1. And as much as shut up. As much as I want to say all this, Oregon is going to be a better team, and it's because you cannot just look at last year. You have to look at what each team has, and overall, my issue is I just think that Oregon has an underrated defense. They have the best secondary in the nation, and while Alabama probably can stop Oregon's offense, I just think Oregon's offense could score more points on Alabama's defense than Alabama's offense could score on Oregon's defense. I think it just comes down to that. If they played head-to-head, I think Oregon would win. And that's why I have them like that.
I can't take it anymore. Listen, I don't care if you think Oregon is going to go undefeated and win the national championship game, and you think that Alabama is going to go 1-11. All we have to look at is what we saw the first week and what we saw last year. And last year we saw a national championship winning team in Alabama, and that's some serious disrespect. When a team wins a national title 2 years in a row, and there's still not enough to be the top-ranked team in the country in someone's eyes, in week 1, there is only one reason for that. It is hometown bias. You are an Oregon Ducks fan, and the green and yellow is blinding you from common.
I promise I'm not getting paid by Phil Knight. I promise. Something's on it.
Well, whatever you say.
Alright, okay, here's the thing. I hate looking at last season. I want to look at what they have and what they lost, too. You forget that Alabama, especially their offensive line, was torn apart by the draft. Did you see how many people Alabama lost to the draft? And to just all sorts of things. Alabama just lost a lot more players than Oregon did. Oregon's main losses, other than they had Kenyon Barner go and their linebacking core got a little bit torn up. But here's the thing. DeAnthony Thomas, proved he was a great running back. Do you know Oregon had 3 running backs go over 100 yards? I don't care who you're playing. That's impressive. And, yeah, it's just, that's the thing. Oregon has lost less than Alabama had. And those two last year would have been very close.
Here's my question. Is this a debate about who is going to be better, Oregon or Alabama? or who is better, Oregon or Alabama?
It's about who is better right now, the teams that are playing on the field. And I just don't think that Alabama's a better team at their current state than Oregon is.
At their current state, they're 1-0 and the defending two-time national champions. Oregon is 1-0 and has not a single championship under their belt in the past 2 years. So,
just a really quick
if you're
fact.
talking about what we see right now, it's Alabama number 1. Without any question.
Alright, see, I can take that argument. I don't mind putting Alabama number 1. So, it's almost a 1A, 1B type of thing for me, in a way. Or 1X and 1W, I don't care how you rank them. They're neck and neck. I would love to see them play. I think that'd be a great game. And I think they'll be the best two teams at the end of the season, and we'll get to see them play. Also, very excited to see Oregon in 2 weeks play Tennessee, because that'll prove how they do against the SEC.
You know what I'd like to see? I'd like to say Johnny Manziel versus a pack of wolves in the BCS National Championship.
That would be amazing entertainment.
And the over-under is how long will it take the wolves to eat Johnny Manziel?
That is
Whatever it
wonderfully
is, I'm
malicious.
taking the under.
Personally, I don't know what the line is, so I would have to wait for the line to come out for me to make a decision on how I'm going to spend my money. Okay then. Alright, that basically says it for the top 5. Let's move on to the big games of next week, because there's 2 semi-good games next week. It's amazing. The second week, other than Texas A&M playing Sam Houston State, that's about what you got excited to, see. So, let's start with a game with 2 teams that are 10 times 2 overhyped. It's 14 Notre Dame playing 17 Michigan. They're both 1-0. They both look pretty impressive. So tell me, Jake, who do you like in this one?
Well, first of all, I absolutely hate what Notre Dame's head coach has been saying about this rivalry and how it's not a real rivalry. These two teams played their first games in 1887. So he should shut up about that. And these 2 teams have the highest winning percentages historically in the history of college football. I believe Michigan's got 735 and Notre Dame is 734 or something like that. At the end of the day, I'm going to go with Michigan, because the last 3 times Michigan and Notre Dame have met up in Ann Arbor, the Wolverines have come away with the win. I don't think that Notre Dame is ready for the environment that they're about to face because they're so young. So for that reason, I'm definitely going to go with Michigan.
See, I agree, but I've got an even greater argument. I'm just saying Notre Dame is the most overranked team since, USC last year. Notre Dame is only ranked this high because last year they were good. This year they're going to be pretty bad. They won't be able to meander. They should have lost 4 games last year. They really should have. They blew it a lot, and they didn't even have Chris Blewett on their team to do it.
No. If you look back at this team, unless there are replacement refs officiating your games, you have won every game that you deserved. The record you come away with is what you deserve. When they beat Pittsburgh in triple overtime, should they have blown them out? Yes. But they didn't, but they still got the win. Their record is the record that they deserve, although I do think Stanford actually scored in that overtime game. But that's besides the point. I completely agree. Notre Dame is a very overrated team right now. They're just so young. They haven't proved themselves yet. They have to prove themselves. Alabama's proved themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're number 1.
See, we're not going back into that, Jake. You're not allowed to restart arguments on my show, because it's my show.
No, I'm not restarting an argument. I'm taking a past argument, which you admitted was a good one, and using it for another argument.
Okay.
It's the same thing.
Okay, I'll accept that, maybe-ish. Okay. Well, I think we can both agree that Notre Dame is overrated, and if they beat Michigan, I will actually consider them as a top 15 team. That's plain and simple.
Okay.
Also, did anybody else see Devin Gardner? They're saying he was impressive, but he threw 2 picks and a touchdown. And, he ran for a couple, but he was 2 picks versus Central Michigan? Come on. He was pretty unimpressive in that game.
Once he's at home, he's playing against Notre Dame, he'll be ready. or more so, Notre Dame will not be ready.
Yeah, they got, especially with Tommy Rees. Tommy Rees is just a mistake waiting to happen. It's kind of sad having Tommy Rees as your starting quarterback, because you just know that you're going to give the other team the ball. It's just kind of plain and simple. Tommy Rees is a interception machine. I think he may have thrown more picks than touchdowns, which is actually really, really possible, because he throws a lot of them. He likes Michigan. Apparently he wanted to go to Michigan because he loves throwing to them.
But, okay. The biggest upside when it comes to Notre Dame about Tommy Rees becoming the face of this football team is that the face of their football team has a girlfriend in real life. And even if he doesn't, at least she's not. At least if he doesn't have a girlfriend, at least he doesn't have an imaginary girlfriend. We have to say it. Because the base Notre Dame's college football team turned into an abomination.
Really? Really, you're going to go into the Manti Te'o? Come on. That page has turned, and we can still watch Key and Peele skits talking about who's the fake girlfriend, who's the real one. I think we've all figured out that Manti Te'o made a huge mistake, and that we will all laugh at it for eternity. All right.
Sopo. I know you're not very good with names. See Ali Fergmanesh, but his name was Ronaya Tuiasosopo, pretending to be Lene Kakua, who won ESPN's bracket challenge last year, by the way. Lene Kakua's entry was the name.
Okay, then. And let's continue. And this is the last thing I'm going to have Jake Liker on. I know you're all booing on the inside. I'm sorry. It's time. And we're going to look at, I think, the better game. I like this game a lot. It's South Carolina versus Georgia, and it's Georgia's chance to reprove they're a good team. I think they can do it, but mainly because South Carolina's overrated and Connor Shaw is not that good of a quarterback. And Georgia's just a pretty good team, and Clemson was the better team a week ago, but Clemson could have easily taken out South Carolina as well.
Well, sometimes your best friend... So, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Alright, sorry, I was just going out of the phone call to look at some numbers that I compiled here. But sometimes numbers can be your best friend when trying to make predictions. If you look at what Georgia and South Carolina have done...
Yeah?
The way these teams played last week, South Carolina was terrible. That was terrible.
Oh,
they
yeah.
had the target to 293 total yards. And even though that seems like a good number, that defense was completely out of shape. And when Georgia gets in there, and with Georgia motivated coming off a loss, forget it.
I couldn't agree more with you.
I will be shocked. If South Carolina wins this game.
Yeah, and I will tell you something, that somehow, even if South Carolina loses, somehow Jadeveon Clowney is going to be the biggest story of this game. Somehow. Because even if he's bad, they care. They were literally calling him like a quarterback. They're like, instead of the quarterback hikes the ball, steps back in the pocket, it was Jadeveon Clowney on the left side, and he runs in, and the quarterback threw the ball, and now Jadeveon is standing there. And he's waiting for the play. It was pretty much like that.
Johnny Manziel was the main guy in the Texas A&M and Rice game, and he didn't even play for 3 quarters. So,
but he did really well, actually, after he came in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and then he started talking.
That was funny. I just found that amusing. Did you see the Rice guy's response to that? He said they were just talking. You know, he's like, Johnny Manziel totally said I had a nice hit, and that was all it was. Yeah, We totally believe you, and that Johnny Manziel wasn't going, I have a Heisman and you don't.
It's funny because, those Rice students are going to become engineers and successful when they grow up. And Johnny Manziel is going to become the next Jamarcus Russell. So while he's working at the McDonald's or the Burger King and saying, hey, I used to be a Heisman Trophy winner, these guys are going to be contributing to NASA and JPL. So we'll see who's signing whose autographs then.
I will just say, that's an interesting point. And that's a wonderful way to end our time with Jake Liker here on College Football on Air. Last words, Jake Liker.
Last words, I have to bring up UCLA's uniforms. Listen, I know you're an Oregon guy. I know you love Oregon's uniforms. But can you give UCLA a little credit?
Oh, don't worry. I love UCLA. I've got time for them when they play somebody good, but I'm sorry, I don't like Nevada that much. And when I start talking about Heisman stuff, I do like Brent Hundley a lot.
That's their uniforms. Just their uniforms. I'm only talking about their uniforms. I'm only talking about their uniforms.
Oh, yeah, no, the Midnight in LA ones. The Midnight in LA ones they just revealed are really nice. They really are. But I haven't talked about Oregon uniforms, so if I ever have a show on uniforms, which is a completely different one, I will make sure you're my co-host on that one, okay?
I'll be in.
Alright, we're going to do that in like a few weeks. That's what we're going to do in the off season. We're just going to talk about uniforms. That sounds like a great idea. Well, thank you for being on our show.
Thanks for having me, Carl.
Well, that was Jake Laker, everybody. Isn't he absolutely fantastically wonderful? Yeah, I thought so too. Alright, now let's continue, and we're going to do our last couple segments, because, well, that was fun. And now I'm kind of sad that he left. And I probably should have left him on, but I didn't tell him to prepare for the next segment, which I'm just calling Upset Alert, because I have no better name for it than Upset Alert. Alright, first, let's go to San Jose State at Stanford. Stanford's number 5, but they haven't proven anything this season, and San Jose State should be ranked. They were ranked at the end of last season. They still have a quarterback who may be one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, and David Fales. He is absolutely outstanding. I really do like him a lot. I saw him in person last year, and he's just a really good quarterback. He's really good at reading the field, checking his options, and making great plays. He's actually very high up on the draft boards, and he is similar to Derek Carr, the quarterback out at Fresno State, who is another mid-major guy I like, and they beat Rutgers and Stanford, but San Jose State is a better team than Fresno State anyway. So yeah, San Jose State at number 5 Stanford, they only won by like 1 point last time, and San Jose State's a better team this year. So watch out, Stanford. You may just get upset and then drop down into the like 20s, and then San Jose State will show that they're a great team, end up going undefeated, and into the national championship game. Obviously, that's probably not going to happen, but if it does, I'd be awesomely amazed. And please tell it too. Alright, now we have a more logical, I guess, pick. Syracuse at number 19, Northwestern. Just because Northwestern's overrated, and whenever they're ranked, they kind of suck. Whenever they get that ranking, apparently they think they're good. Then they start losing, and then there's Syracuse, who has a chip on their shoulder. They lost to Penn State in a close game, and Penn State's a better team than what people think. So, watch out, number 19 Northwestern, because you're not that good. And Syracuse is better than you think. Now, the final thing of my night, and it kind of ties in because San Jose State's at Stanford, and Syracuse is at Northwestern, and, well, yeah. This is my rant on home field advantage. And as many of the sports broadcasting colleagues I have here on national sports can attest, I really don't think it's that big of a deal. Maybe 3 points in a football game. Maybe at the biggest stadium, 6 at max. But it's not a game changer unless the teams are exactly even. Here's an example of my own Oregon Ducks. They've lost 4 games over the last 3 years. And, 2 of them were on neutral sites. They lost to Auburn and LSU, and then they lost to USC and Stanford. But guess where they lost? At home. They didn't lose in the Coliseum. They didn't lose down in Palo Alto. They lost on their own turf. Literally their own turf, because it is turf. This is showing that Oregon, who's a team that everybody thinks Autzen Stadium is the hardest place to play, they don't lose on the road. They lose at home. So now you gotta look. Is this really a big deal? There's all these teams that say, oh, we only do this at home. Well, guess what? Did Appalachian State win at home? Or did any of those SCF teams win at home? No! Do you think Eastern Washington would even consider paying enough money to get Oregon State to come up? No, Oregon State paid them like $450,000. Just to come and, be an easy competitor. Well, that's why home field advantage doesn't matter. Because it doesn't. It may be worth, again, 3 points. I'll give you that. It's even less in some sports. I think it's worth about nothing in baseball. Hockey, it doesn't matter. And, well, basketball, oddly enough, free throw shooting. That's about the only thing it changes. And, you can storm the court after an upset at home. But still, you can win on the road. You can have an upset on the road. It's possible. And you can have a better record on the road. There are things. There's, the sleep deprivation that comes on the road, the unfamiliarity with things. But overall, it makes a difference. It's just not that big. It's not this monumental, if some team was playing every game on the road, they would lose every single one. I don't care. A good team can win anywhere. A bad team will lose to a good team anywhere, except when there's upsets, and it doesn't matter where you're playing. You play where you play. And, you can't say, I have an advantage because I'm at home, because it truly isn't one. The away team gets an advantage. They get to call the coin. Isn't that big enough? So, that's all I'm saying. Home field advantage, overrated. Kinda like Notre Dame. Kinda like Northwestern. Kinda like Ohio State. Well, and it's also kinda like Oregon State, or TCU, or Boise State. All these teams are overrated, just like home field advantage, and it kinda showed. Oregon State lost at home. LSU and TCU. TCU, they were playing in Dallas, which is close enough. These are things that happen away from home or at home. I don't care where they happen. Teams are overrated, and they get beat. Home field advantage is overrated, and I think it is beat, because it means so little. And that's just a fact. Well, and this has been my rant on home field advantage, and I hope it made no difference in you guys, because every single person who's listening to this, except for one person, probably will disagree with me. And I'm okay with that. I've had a bus disagree with me about that. I'm serious. It's just the facts. Home field advantage isn't worth much. You should follow me on Twitter at Carl_PM. That's with a K. At Carl_PM. Follow National Sports on Facebook and Twitter at National Sports 1. And I'm Carl Mogline. This has been College Football on Air. And I will see you next Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or whenever I decide to do a show. So thanks for listening. And tune in next week.